June 19th will, of course, be a welterweight championship fight as Brian Norman Jr. defends his WBO welterweight title against Jin Sasaki. Now, of course, this will take place in Japan, so obviously home court advantage for Sasaki. But besides that, if we're just looking at records here and nothing else, this is looking to shape up to be a very entertaining firefight. But anyways, let's get on with the records. Jin Sasaki is 19-1-1, 17 wins by way of knockout, and 1 loss by way of knockout. He is ranked number 3 in the world by BoxRec. What has he done to earn that rank? Not a lot, to be honest. Matter of fact, if you look at his resume, not the best. Of course, you do have your Joe Noine, 23-2, pretty good win. Some 7-1, some undefeated fighters here or there, but for the most part, good record, not the best, right? Of course, his best win seems to be Camille Bala, 15-1-1, which he stopped in the 7th round. And of course, with that record, he only has ever gone to decision 3 times. He's won 2 of them, and he had a draw in the 3rd one. Of course, that one draw comes against the 3-0 Kotaro Sakain, 3-0. Another unanimous decision win all the way back in 2019 against Hikaru Sato. And his latest decision win was, of course, his last one, being against Shoki Sakai, or Sakai. And his one loss comes against a opponent you guys probably know about, that being Andy Hiroka, where he got stopped in the 11th round. Of course, Andy Hiroka is a super lightweight, and of course, a very important detail to mention is the fact that Sasaki missed the weight by like 4 pounds. So yeah, and he got stopped in the 11th round. So, not the best, especially if you're going up against a power puncher like Brian Norman Jr. Speaking of Norman Jr., he is 27-0 with 21 wins by way of knockout, once another power puncher. Of course, he is the WBO welterweight champion in the world after he was elevated from his interim title. Of course, he won that interim title against Giovanni Santillan, where he stopped him in the 10th round in a very bloody affair. Fortunately enough for Norman Jr., he was not the bloody one. It was Santillan. A very bad beatdown at the hands of Norman Jr. Of course, besides that, he's also gotten some good wins in Quinton Randall, 13-0-1, unanimous decision win. Jesus Perez, 24-4, unanimous decision win. And his latest win against Derek Cuevas. Of course, a little bit of context, Cuevas was inactive at the time, but still a very dangerous puncher. Stopped him in the 3rd round. A very interesting matchup between Norman Jr. and Sasaki. Of course, people were wondering if Norman Jr. and Boots were to unify, but it seems he took the route of defending his belt first. And now Boots has moved up, or seems to be all but confirmed, to move up to 154 pounds. Enough talking about other people, let's talk about this fight. Who wins this fight and why? Of course, obviously the power, you could say, goes against Sasaki, which very much could be his thing. Obviously only ever gone decision twice. But his opponent's not the best. Norman Jr. has knocked out the better fighters. And he's knocked out, I guess you can see, the much more durable fighters, especially like someone in Santillan. And Cuevas, obviously, you could technically make a very good argument that it actually falls on Norman Jr. to have the more power out of the both of them. But besides that, resume, speed, power, footwork, all goes to Norman Jr. He's a very much good fighter. Of course, he is young, but so is Sasaki. Matter of fact, Norman Jr. is only 1 year older than him, and he's 24. So obviously age doesn't really play a factor, because you could say both of them are inexperienced. But Norman Jr. has fought the better fighters, had more fights, has much more experience, has enough power to hurt basically anyone in the division. And yeah, now of course that doesn't mean that Jin Sasaki doesn't have a chance. He's more of a combination puncher. You see him fight, he likes to throw a bunch of punches. Very much a fan-friendly fighter. He has power too, which obviously should definitely play a factor. You never know. Puncher's chances obviously always existed, especially with people with a lot of power. But the thing is, he's hittable. He's very hittable. Norman Jr. is hittable too, but out of the both of them, Sasaki is way more hittable. Especially against, you could say, lesser opposition. Now, of course, you could say that this time he's fighting at a much bigger stage, of course, in his home country, fighting for a world title. that could bring out the best in him. But that doesn't change the fact that he's fighting against a power puncher while being very much hittable himself. He's been in a lot of, I guess you could say, wars, and he's been hit quite a bit of times, which obviously is not the best when fighting someone like Norman Jr. They don't call him the Assassin 2 for no reason. He has pinpoint precision. He could counter you. He could counter the best of them. The better resume, the better a lot of things, and overall, he's just just the better fighter out of the both of them. Is there a chance? Of course. Sasaki's fighting style is more of a break you down type of fight. And we have yet to see Brian Norman Jr. really fight someone that tries to break him down. That's what I would say if I was lying. Santillan tried to break him down and it didn't work. But much more important context is needed. Santillan is not a power puncher. Even though he stopped Rocha relatively easily, to be honest. But he's not a power puncher, so obviously a different type. But anyways, enough dilly-dallying with, countering this, resume that. Who's going to win? Give me Brian Norman Jr. by 5th round stoppage. It's the fact that he's really hittable. Don't get me wrong, the power could be the great equalizer. If it wasn't for the fact that Norman Jr. also has that type of power too. He can hurt him basically the same way too. So it's not like, this guy's got the power to change the fight. So does the other guy. So now that's basically negates each other. So now it's basically skill, resume, ability, and that basically all goes to Norman Jr. Could be, I could be talking a lot, and then it could be an upset. Very much could be. But no, I don't think so. Give me Brian Norman Jr. by 5th round stoppage. He has the better resume, more experience, championship pedigree, has just enough power. He has basically the same type of power as Sasaki, and he can counter effectively, has some pretty good movement. So yeah, give me Brian Norman Jr. by 5th round stoppage. But anyways, who do you guys have winning this fight? Seems like it pretty much could be a barn burner. You never know. Sasaki can pretty much could make Norman Jr. fight his fight. Very much possible. But I don't think so. But anyways, who do you guys have winning this fight? Leave it down in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. And I hope to catch you on the next one.